The Bronze Age is one of those points in history in which we don't really know much about, to be frank. There were civilizations, they existed, an asshole didn't sell copper to people, and there may or may not have been a very large horse built for sacking a city. But Jackals is a tabletop role-playing game set firmly during a relatively low fantasy-ish Levant period where you take the role of the titular Jackals, a bunch of dumb fucks who fight for the good fight for your people and personal profits. Jackals is a D100 game at its core, with dubs being criticals, but getting there is a little bit of a struggle. There are four main cultures, the Luthai, Gurwa, Melkoni, and Trauj, each with their own dedicated write-up and beliefs to inform their creation. These are going to include some basic skill bonuses and initial virtues. There are a total of 7 attributes, but corruption is a special one that only increases when you go into negative zones. But with only 17 points to spread around initially, you're going to want to increase that little bit of corruption early on to get some of those few points out. However, the attribute of devotion is actually reserved for ritualist characters, which is completely optional and allows the use of magic. But we'll just make a fairly bog standard gladiator this time. All of these initial attributes inform how many skill points you'll get, such as martial skills being a combination of strength, courage, and deftness, all multiplied by 2, with their own starting amounts as well, and of course bonuses from culture. Quite a bit to get into it initially, but none of the skills are obtuse in any way or feel out of place. The only odd one being ancient lore, but it's appropriate for the rather simplistic setting that the War Road is. Characters feel competent rather than lacking. You'll always have something you're weak in, but not ever helpless, though courage does factor into quite a few of them, which does increase its value. Now, traits are special quirks of the Jackal. They allow them to gain an advantage on checks should it be appropriate. Standard characters are going to end up with 4 of these, while ritualists end up with 2 because fuck magician bullshit. What they do, though, is if your trait is relevant, you're going to be rolling 2 ones die and take the desired outcome. So rolling a 46 would be standard, but I may be able to roll a 4 and a 6 for my ones place, allowing me to crit by making it 44. Most are tied to the culture in question, such as Melkoni having eyes of Eraton or heirs of silver, while the Gurwa have hear of the dead whispers and raised among many eyes, but they are different, but they're pretty similar in application and able to be melded. This does lead to most of the equipment being fairly standard, with weapons being more one-handed medium weapons and two-handed light weapons rather than the bastard swords or kopeshes. But all of this just leads into the most important part of the game, the clash system. Health in Jackals is broken down into 3 concepts, which is metal, valor, and wounds. Metal is your shit togetherness, which may fall in terrible circumstances or really poor conditions, while wounds is the raw injuries you sustain. Valor, however, is your over health, but here's a secret: your valor is tied to the number of wounds you've taken. So for example, our gladiator has sustained a pretty good amount of wounds. His max valor is going to be only his metal times 2 instead of the traditional metal times 3. This produces an odd death spiral, as valor is constantly shifting as determined by 2 separate variables, but can also be improved by, well, improving those variables. But how are we dying and getting hurt? Clashes. After rolling our slot initiative, I guess we'd call it. It's a little weird, I like it. We're gonna start going in on one another in some hardcore Bronze Age ass-clapping combat. Clash points are a meta currency, another meta currency, mind you, that is all about combat. If you want to defend yourself, clash point. You want to raise from being prone, clash point. Kicking down door, clash point. Running like hell, clash o'clock. But these can also be used for abilities such as power attacks, aiming, and arc strikes, even tying into the magic system to allow you to use combat magic. These clash points are the beating heart of the combat, a deadly exchange of blows and counter blows, but also resulting in some characters getting overwhelmed with attacks should they run out of these. But you can also generate them by challenging opponents or performing certain actions. But that's Jackals. It's not a complex game, nor does it go out of its way to make you believe it. Most of the game is either going to be spend X, receive Y, or make that D100 check. Advancements are relatively common, allowing heroes to increase their power at a consistent, even rate, and even some factors such as patronage let you get into the world a little bit more. But let's be honest here, you're not looking at Jackals to play Jackals. The War Road has some interesting beats, but the truth of the Jackals can be subbed out for any appropriate setting with these ideas, including, well,
fucking coming.
We're gonna retake our homeland by force if necessary. Fuck trolls, fuck lunars, praise Orlan. Simple as, boys. My name is Notepad and this was Jackals. If you like what I do here, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And many thanks to the merchant kings of the southern coast for funding my ill-fated raids. May Orlan the guide our blades.